Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of the Straight to the Money podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Silver. Today is the first episode live from the Dominican Republic.
Let's
Dominican
go.
Republic. Clap it
The
up for that.
DR, baby.
Let's
Que lo
go.
que.
Let's go. Oh my gosh, I got a little winning towel. Let's go. Come on now. I'm thrilled to have my good friend,
Yes, sir.
good friend, Matt Gies on the podcast here today. Matt is a newly licensed Texas real estate agent based out of San Antonio, focused uh, currently on staffing, but also in helping homeowners get into homes and helping people become homeowners, first time home buyers, right? Affordable home ownership. And his mission is really to guide people in that process, helping them with down payment assistance programs that I wasn't even aware of. Matt's got a really interesting background. I actually met him when I was a car dog selling cars for Nissan. That's where we connected. We'll probably talk about that, but I feel like I gave Matt pneumonia by not telling him how to pace. And then, I think one of the things that Matt has really taught me is just how to approach situations differently. And genuinely, I go to Matt for advice almost every other day. Matt, welcome to the show. Welcome.
Thank you, brother. Beautiful intro, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's great to have you here, especially right now. I've literally got Dominican reality television going on in the background. I've got a Coke and water, and I'm in the Dominican Republic. I've got my executive cognition studio, as I call it, right here in the setup. I'm thrilled to have you on, man. Tell me, what's it like out there right now in Texas? And don't sugarcoat it, but also give me the honesty.
Hot. It's real hot, man. It's August in San Antonio. We actually had a pretty lukewarm because of all the rain that we received. But then afterwards, the humidity would just be out through the roof because, of course, it's getting evaporated. So it was brutal and then nice, and then brutal and nice, and so it was pretty bipolar. If you're from Texas, you can experience all four seasons in one day, especially in the falls and the spring. So
Dude, it was actually notably and factually hotter in Texas than it is in Santo Domingo. It is no like they say it's hot down here, and I understand that because sometimes people without air conditioning and a lot of spaces, so on and so forth.
right.
But even so, it is hotter in Texas. And then some places it's like scorched earth. Like if you're going out to Arizona, I feel like San Antonio, you would include that in there too. I
Yeah, but
want
there's
to
no humidity out in Arizona. So that dry heat, I went to Vegas. It was 115 degrees. I
yeah.
felt pretty decent. I come back to San Antonio that same day. It's 88 degrees, and I'm being destroyed by I feel so hot. It was ridiculous. The humidity makes a huge difference in how hot it actually feels. So
It makes an enormous difference. I tell people this all the time that if you can't get used to the humidity, you're pretty much always going to hate being outside. Like
yeah.
people are like, how do you run outside? I'm like, well, you just kind of got to acclimate yourself to it.
Right.
We've got food being cooked in the background.
Yeah, I was about to say earlier, I thought I heard some food being cooked.
We've got food on I'm posting it all the time. Actually, Matt, you're a real champion of my media content. It started off really as a hobby for me, really just about promoting my own well-being. And I've gotten a lot of, I would say, people in support, people not necessarily in support, but really I'm just all about living a healthy life. And I think in a lot of ways, Santo Domingo can be really, really healthy for young men in particular in ways that the U.S. Can't. But I really
I would
want to
agree.
I want to pivot a bit here and ask you about how we met. What's your recollection of this story? And
Okay.
what was your impression of me? Or I feel like I'm not that, like, you probably didn't notice who I was when we were just getting to know each
No,
other.
I definitely did. I noticed that you were going out of your way to help me, which if you know anything about the car business or the rumors that you hear, you're like, nobody's going to be helpful. People are not going to like you because they want your money or the sales that you're going to make, right? So I was like, man, maybe the car business isn't as bad as I thought it was after you were being so like helpful and nice to me. And some other people were being nice too, but you were like going out of your way, out of your way. And I thought you were like the big dog of the dealership. I thought, oh, this guy makes a lot of money, da 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 da. Just the way that you presented yourself and advice you were giving, I was like, okay, cool, you know. And I don't ever think anything bad of you. I felt like I thought he's a little odd, I guess. But I was like, I don't feel like, but not odd in a bad way. I was like, I don't feel like he would want to hang out with me beyond uh teaching me, he's just being a great guy at the dealership. So
What month was it? Because I'm trying to figure out if I still sucked at selling
this
cars
is
or if I
summer,
was
it was June. I think it was June
June of
3, because I got
2023.
laid off.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so if it
it's the
was
only reason
June
I
of
joined.
2023, I quit the next month, but I was absolutely on a tear. If it was June of
Yeah, it
2023
was.
we met,
You were.
I
That's
was
why I
probably,
thought you were like the one of the best salespeople there.
I don't want to toot my own horn because there's people that work there who probably will dispute this. I was, I mean, selling cars left and right. Every day was a car deal, multiple car deals by that point, but it came from a place of literally being the worst person at the dealership, like actual. Like now that I no longer work there, I'm gonna tell some of these stories. But I mean, there was days where they were like trying to write me up, I feel like, and I've told this story on another podcast. I was like, "Oh, I've got customers here. I've got to go help them." And they were like, "Go help them." And I avoided signing a write up that way. I feel like there was other times I'm not going to say any names yet because I respect people to this extent at least. Someone took me to like a Chili's or an Applebee's and they were like, "Dylan, they're going to fire you." And I was like, "Well, what do I got to do?" They're like, "You got to do something." So that's when I really started to get into training. And but I think I sold like 1.5 or 2.5 cars in December, which is the hottest month of the year, and it was bad. And then I got to a
Ooh.
point where I was selling, on average 14 cars a month. My best month was 18. I made over 10 grand. It was actually over 11. And for me, that was huge because I came from being terrible. And so it sounds like you met me when I was actually on
On
the
fire.
hot.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
let me tell you my impression of you, and I've said this to your face. So I met Matt, and I said that dude's kind of intimidating kind of guy. Like he doesn't look like he probably thinks he's a big shot. Just he probably thinks he's better than a bunch of people. I don't know if I'm gonna even be friends with this guy. I said I literally didn't really talk to you. I think I may have avoided you actually, and
I
I
think that's
think.
why I thought you were odd, because I was like, oh, we get along, but then I feel like you would avoid me. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. Like,
Yeah, I did. I said this guy's got to be full of himself because you're this big dude, big athletic looking dude, and you had this personality. I remember you were. Do you remember this? Of course you do. You were calling people fruits, like colors. You'd be like, "Hey, blueberry. Hey, straw." And you remember that?
yeah, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do.
And I was like, "Who's
They
this
were,
guy?"
they would wear these
Doing all
extremely
this.
the girls that we worked with would wear these extremely bright dresses. Like it just reminded me of fruits. So I was like, well, if you dress like one, I'm gonna call you one, right? And I eventually had a girl tell
I
me
mean,
one time, she was like, well, I purposely avoid putting on certain dresses because I know he's gonna call me a fruit today. And I was like, fair enough.
I actually think that in my tutelage you were great actually, but you ended up getting sick. I think what I was really teaching you is how to do the walkarounds, really how to greet people, how to not be afraid of the other salespeople, just go out and get it. And you were doing good. You were doing
Yeah.
well. I feel
Yeah,
like
my
you may have
first
had run.
month, I was
Yeah,
eighth,
go
I
ahead.
think it was eighth place out of like 20 people my first month. So it was okay for my first.
And you were selling enough cars. Hold on, Esme, can you lower the volume a little bit? Oh, it's your phone. Never mind, we're good. Um, and so you were selling a bunch of cars and you were, I'd say, making decent money, but then you probably got to experience the downside of the business, which is unfortunately dealing with the pay plans. And it feels like what the heaven is going on here because I'm doing this and I thought I needed all these things in place. And then that can be very frustrating in the car business in general, and definitely one of the big reasons why I left. But what happened? You ended up getting like real sick, right? You got pneumonia or something at that point.
Yeah, I did get getting sick. I was coughing up blood when I was swimming one time, and then I ended up getting like real sick. But I came back and I started doing great again. I started getting like, hey, how much is this car going to be worth? How much is this car going to be worth? And, well, you're going to make 2 grand off this. You're going to make, 500 off that and, 800 on this one. And then I get my next paycheck and all I made was meanies, which means they had to spend so much money, supposedly, on all the cars that I sold.
Supposedly.
Right, exactly. That I only made 250 per car, and I was like, "You mean I went from over $2,000 to somehow y'all went negative?" And I was like, "Y'all think I'm dumb?" And so, one thing I don't play with when it comes to work is my money. So I mean, that's the whole reason you're there. It's cool to have friends. It's cool to laugh and have fun. Of course, I'm a very positive person. I want to make my environment, the best that I can be when we're around. But at the end of the day, we're there to make money, and I feel like if you're gonna cheat me out of my money, then you're completely untrustworthy in anything else. So I couldn't continue working there. So that's the real reason why I ended up leaving.
Yeah, I think car business is a tough business. One of the things that I tell people is people often assume that people are making money hand over fist. That's really not the case. I mean, I was grinding
Yeah,
for a full year, and I thought I did real well. I made close to 70 grand, but I mean, we're talking basically 12-hour days, 5 days a week, and then
yeah.
a 10-hour day on a sixth day, and you'd have to work to earn your days off. It was definitely brutal, I would say, and very difficult to cope with that, I think, for a lot of people. One of the things that I want to point out, maybe pivot a little bit here, Matt, is how you got that job. Because one of the things that I've learned from you, more so than anything else, and the reason why I actually got into podcasting was because of your approach to getting jobs. How did you get that Nissan job?
Well, I've always been a huge fan of Nissan, and I got laid off, and I was not getting a job immediately like I'm used to getting. I thought it was very rare. So I said, this will be an opportunity for me to try something I thought I'd always be good at, right? So I chose Nissan because, again, I was a big fan of that brand. And I went straight in there, turned in my resume, and say, hey, this is the amount of sales experience I have, da 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 da. I think I'd be great to work here. They interviewed me on the spot and hired me that same day.
That was amazing.
Yeah. I
That's
always
amazing.
say one thing I think people make huge mistakes on, and this is big when I do career counseling, is that people just don't know what they want to work and just apply for things and wait for people to call them. I think that's a completely incorrect way of trying to get a job. What I do is I search obviously I know what field I want to get into. I search the company, I look at the reviews, I see what it, normally is paying, what working there is like, what people are saying, getting the vibe of a place that I want to be at, and then I go after it. So I don't wait for someone to call me. I apply and then I either go in, or sometimes they don't let you go in. Then I find the number to call someone to say, "Hey, I'm checking on the status of my resume." So there's if any job you apply for, being as a recruiter and someone who's been doing staffing for the past 5 years now, you would be incredibly amazed to see how many resumes you get for one position. We're talking hundreds. And so what makes you think they're going to call your resume unless you just have stellar, absolutely outstanding, incredible resume that someone would be dumb not to immediately pick yours first over hundreds. But the person who takes initiative and calls and goes in and can present themselves in a way that is approachable and human and can answer the questions, which what I call the STAR method, and I can go over that later, is someone who's a lot more likely to get hired faster, and you're able to negotiate what you want more when you do things of that nature. So don't wait for people to
Matt,
call you.
you've got such an amazing background in staffing that probably people who may know you in San Antonio may be unaware of. I think a lot of people who worked with you at Nissan may be unaware of that. And you had been in the staffing world before working at Nissan, even, right?
Yes, I had got my first staffing job before Nissan, and then I ended up getting laid off. And I thought it'd be easy to get another one, just because, again, I'm really good at getting jobs. It's one of the reasons I became a recruiter, is to be on the other side of that. And ended up falling in love with it because of helping people. But yes, I got laid off, wasn't getting a recruiting job right away, and thought, hey, let me try something I thought I'd always be good at because now's the opportunity.
So I want to tell our audience here, Matt has basically been the reason why I stuck it out in real estate. Because I was working for a company initially where it was heavy, heavy turnover. Ultimately, they fired me, but I was one of the last people, the last person that parted ways with them of everyone that I started with. They fired my boss before they fired me, who came on after me.
Oh, that's crazy.
Um, and remember, do you remember where we were? And do you remember how much? And I'm perfectly fine with you telling our audience this. I paid you to coach me. Do
Mhm.
you remember how much I paid you? And do you remember where I was when this all went down?
Yeah, it was a couple $100. I can't remember the exact amount, maybe 500, something like that. But I remember when we at a coffee shop or no, we were consistently practicing at that coffee place that was connected to that brunch spot. I can't remember the name of it in San Antonio.
It was oh, I was is it the one that's by the Riverwalk, kind of like the downtown area, but
No,
outside?
no, this is
That's a
one off
different
of Hubner. It was outside the first day, and then you took me to a Mexican restaurant up the street
Oh
from
wait, was
there.
that the CBD one right next to it? It's got the
Yes,
CBD. I remember, dude, we have so
yes,
many stories about that are not for this podcast, but so many stories about that place.
yeah.
My gosh. One of the things that I remember about this time frame, which I don't know if you'll recall this, was I was at Top Golf all of the time, and I had like a Top Golf I
Yeah,
forget
yeah,
what they
yeah.
call it, like where you had
Executive membership or
a parking
something.
spot, and then they would bring you your own set of clubs. You would get a flag in there.
They were
It
all
was
gold.
amazing.
All your clubs
Oh
were
my
gold.
gosh,
Yeah.
it was amazing. The
Some girl would
treatment.
take a moist towelette and wipe the sweat off your forehead at each
It was
putt.
almost that level. I was like, dude, this is amazing. So I feel like I had a different recollection. I'm sure yours is accurate, but my recollection was I had paid you, whether it was Cash App or some other way, however many
Yeah.
$100. Uh, and I think I thought I was at Top Golf when I did it, but it could definitely have been at the other place. But when
We moved
I
around quite
did
a bit because we did multiple trainings. So
when I did that with you, you really were the reason why I stuck in that job, why I lasted, and then ultimately how I was able to pivot within that job, kind of get an unpaid promotion, if you will. Then finally, when I was out of strictly wholesaling and was getting involved in some other avenues, you were telling me go apply for jobs, how to apply for jobs. You were giving me all this information on the ATS, the applicant tracking system, how to get through the
yes,
applicant tracking system. You know, that you have to revise your resume based off of the keywords that employers are looking for. And then on
exactly.
top of that, that when you go to apply for these jobs, just get the resume in and then follow up immediately.
Hmm.
And so I had
Absolutely.
a spreadsheet, like I might even be able to show it at the end of this podcast here. I had a spreadsheet of all these jobs that I had applied to, and like the last time that I made contact with them, what it was, how hot it was, my interest level, their interest level in me. And I had worked for Amazon, I had worked for Toyota this way. You'd helped me got so many jobs. And then ultimately you helped me get into podcasting, but it was a roundabout way. I said, I'm probably not going to get hired at that job. I don't know what's going to happen. Do you remember where you told me to go apply to? Recently. It was like
I
when I
don't.
got you said go apply to T-Mobile, and I'm like, yeah, but they keep rejecting me,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
and you're like, just
yeah.
go in there, just get. So I walked into T-Mobile, you know, boom, boom, boom. I'm like, hey, was here last week following up. I know you guys aren't hiring, hoping to talk with the manager. And just through that momentum, I feel like
Mm.
I was making a compelling case to, you know, God that, hey, I'm trying to get hired here. And then I got this really amazing opportunity to be a
Hmm.
podcast host, and I've really just run with it. But I would
I think
like,
you're doing a
you
great
know,
job, by the way.
thank you,
Yeah,
thank
there you
you.
have some clips. I'm like, wow, I'm learning from the experts that you're bringing on, and I think you ask great questions, and I think you're doing a great job, man. You're really bringing value. So,
I appreciate it. We've got a full studio up in here right now, and it's only going to get better as time
right,
goes on. But
that's how it works.
I want to ask you about the staffing world because I dove into it a little bit right there with some of the terms applicant tracking system, you know, get your resume
Yes.
up and then follow up. But if you can give away, like, I would really like it if you could give away like a mini course right now in how to get a job for folks who may be younger, college degree or
Mhm.
no college degree, and listening and just feel rejected everywhere.
Right. I think the biggest thing is that people don't understand what they want to do. And so they're kind of just floating out there applying for things that sound all right. Instead, I think like for me when I was young, the T-Mobile back then was cool. Cell phones were cool. People would wait hours, days, it would be like the people would wait outside of the store, would have a chair, would have drinks and food for literally hours for a new phone release. Now nobody cares at all, right? But back then, T-Mobile was the brand that were doing things different. And so I thought that sounds cool. I think cell phones are amazing. They're still innovating. They still at that time weren't doing a lot of things that they're doing now. And so I said, I want to be a part of that. And so I actually bombarded T-Mobile for 3 months to hire me because back then they didn't just hire 18-year-olds like they'll hire now, fresh out of high school. It was hard. Most of the time you had to have a degree. And so I would constantly check on the status of my application. I would dress up kind of like I'm dressing up now, didn't have to wear a tie or anything like that. But I would go in person, introduce myself, tell them why I think it'd be great for the job. And for 3 months, they ignored me. And finally, I gave up and I was at my first day at Whataburger. And I get a phone call from Lena, who was the manager back then. It ends up being my great friend later. And she says, "Hey, are you still interested? It's only part time though." I immediately put down the patty I was flipping. I'm just kidding. I wasn't doing that. But I immediately just walked out of Whataburger. I was like, I'm never coming back to here ever again. It was terrible. I hated it. But you have to figure out what it is that you'd be even semi passionate about. Have a purpose, have something that you think you would like to be a part of. And from there, of course, you tailor your resume and things of that nature, which if people go to my Instagram, Matt Knows Texas, is a lot of real estate stuff on there, but I'll also be doing career advising. I can help you out with your resume in getting past the applicant tracking system, which you were kind of discussing earlier, which basically the ATS receives so many applications for one job that looks for the keywords in that resume and those rise to the very, very top. So that's just something I do as part of my career coaching and career advising. But of course, work on your resume and go after what you want. If you're going after a job and you can show them that you're passionate at least about something that they have that not only the job can offer you, but that you can offer the job as well, people will see that hunger as not just being this annoying guy who's begging for a job because people don't do that. And if you come in and you do it the right way, you ask the right questions, you say the right things and come with a certain energy, people are going to be like, man, this guy is hungry. If he's this hungry to get this job, what is he going to do when he's actually here, right? These are the things that are going through their mind. And so that's what I always say is have a purpose, have something that you think is, at least relatively something that you find interesting, that you'd be excited to work with or do, and then go after it. Even if you don't think that you would qualify, depending on what it is, right? Don't try to be a doctor. You obviously never went to school for medicine, but within
Right.
reason, go after things full-heartedly and show that you're hungry and put your foot in the door. I've heard career advisors and HR managers say that's a terrible way and they automatically disqualify people. They're wrong. Every job I've ever gotten is because I showed up, I introduced myself, I said the right things, I got in front of managers, and I showed how hungry I was. So that's just
One of
a
the things
little,
that I'll follow up on that is that I've learned this from you. And I think a lot of young men in particular, because when we talk about the men's health crisis in the United States, one of the things that goes along with this is how basically, a job isn't dignified any longer. Like if you just have a job in the United States, like almost no one respects just having a job. You have to have a certain type of job. You know what I mean? To me, it's like
yeah,
if you work at Chipotle, if you work at Whataburger, if you work at any of these places, I respect you. I know how hard those jobs are.
yes,
I work for
yeah.
Amazon. I mean, Amazon's like one of the ones that people think of when they think about this stuff. I respect and I saw so much problem solving going on Amazon. That's a whole other story I could tell you about. Maybe I'll dive into that
Oh
here in a
yeah.
bit. But I want to actually say some personal experience that I had watching you go through this, which is really what made me say when I was in Dallas, like, hey, I'm just going to take any job. I'll go work for Amazon, right? Is I saw you take a job while you were in between jobs in the last like 2 or 3 years working for Chipotle. Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Where I got laid off and just wanted a secondhand
Yeah.
job to
And
make
so
up for the money that I had lost, as well as get free food. That's good food right there. So
I
for the
was like,
gains.
dude, this guy is being positive about it. I actually went in. I don't even know if I knew you were working there. I just saw you there and I
Nah,
was
I don't
like,
think you
whoa.
did.
And I was thinking on the flip side, and I'm just gonna speak unfiltered. On the flip side, Matt, I was like, well, if I was working there and someone that I knew saw me, maybe I would feel embarrassed or something like this. Like, oh no. And I saw you and you had zero anything. And I was like, dude, that dude is the man because he understands, like, dude, I gotta eat out here. And so that
What was
really
it was
helped.
my second
Go ahead.
job at the time. It was my second job, so I was still doing staffing, but after that, for part time, I would go afterwards to Chipotle, to make up for the extra money. I got into a little bit of debt, so being laid off, and it was just a great experience, man. People talk down to Gen Z. They talk about they're lazy and this and that. All I did was work around Gen Z. People who are still in high school, people who are barely out of high school. I mean, dude, they were putting me like to work. You know what I mean? Like I was like, okay, they talk so down about y'all, and here I am seeing y'all doing the most. I was very proud of the young generation, and to see how they were grinding and wanting to become managers, and how they were also going to school and working there full time. And it was a very honorable thing to see when you're online and all you hear is people talking bad about a certain age group, and I saw the completely opposite. So
I feel so much compassion, sympathy for Gen Z because what they're really up against is uh, a depreciated dollar, a
yeah,
housing market that is inflated, which benefits the homeowners, not the people that are going in. And it's just difficult. I mean, there's a reason why I am a big believer in Santo Domingo. I'm a big believer in these developing countries and in remote work, and big believer in real estate because I got into real estate from the same mentality. If you can't beat them, join them. So to hear your story about how young people were, I mean, talking about Chipotle, the rush at Chipotle is like no other. I mean, it feels like everyone's going to get their food at Chipotle. And if you go to
yeah,
a really well-run Chipotle, it's like, dude, these people are just, I mean, they're just shuffling. They're just here, burrito,
yeah, yeah,
burrito,
yeah.
boom, 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 boom. And then if you go to a poorly one run, it's like being at the DMV. You're like, damn, I need a burrito, but I
Yeah.
guess they don't want to serve me well. And so when I started to approach jobs like this, like, hey, this might not be the forever job for me at that time, but I'm gonna work as hard as I can, and if it doesn't work out, it's all right. I'm gonna keep applying. It was way, way better for me, and actually, I went through that. I'm gonna tell us an aside, Amazon aside here. So, Amazon is a very tough delivery job, specifically the time of year that I was working in December, because you're in what they call peak season, and
Oh yeah,
so
Christmas.
they will have you. Uh, I don't know if it's 200 or if it's 300 or however many stops it is that you need to do throughout the day. It's getting dark. You have to organize packages. They're in a big colored box, but then you've got, 15 boxes in a van. You can't go too fast, otherwise it'll ding you, and then they'll lose their ability to be a service provider with Amazon, the delivery company. And so I was never able to complete my full routes. And I finally got to a point where I realized, like, I'm not good enough at this job. I'm not cut out to do Amazon. And they kept having to do what's called rescue, which is like when they send someone else in to go help you. And it got to a point where they were like, we're handing you nursery routes, Dylan, and you still can't finish it. And I texted back, like, yeah, maybe I'm not cut out for this. And I think that kind of stunned even them too, because they were like, "Who would say that? Like, you work here. Shouldn't you try to defend
Yeah.
yourself?" And I just didn't try to defend myself at all because I was applying for jobs and I was just honest. And then they
Mhm.
just continued up until I figured, if they fire me, they fire me, but they probably need help up until the end of peak season. So they kept me on through the end of December, and then they just kept giving me these easy routes. And I was like, you know what? That was the right hand to play because I could have been like, no, I'm going to try to work hard, and they could have given me more difficult routes, but I basically got easy routes. I didn't finish them. I got lots of help. And then at the end, I want to say they paid me for every bit of the hours worked, even if I wasn't the most productive. Moral of the story is you can have a job, even if it's not the job that you want, and still continue to apply to different jobs with vim and vigor and still put your best foot forward and still feel like, in my case, that I'm in the real estate hunt, that I'm doing all of this so that I can become a full-time real estate investor.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I want to pivot a bit here and ask you about going from the staffing world into real estate, and then also your
Okay.
encouragement of me in the real estate space. I was a wholesaler and still am pretty passionate about that space. I was considering getting my license, had actually paid for an online course years ago, was trying to get through it, wasn't getting through it. I might be able to get through it in Santo Domingo, honestly. My motivation and discipline is through the roof. But I ended up going to champion school in Fort Worth because I saw Mark, Mark Anthony, in San Antonio go through real estate school, and I said, "Well, I'm having people who I know who are lapping me. I got to get in front." And then you were encouraging me to go as
Yeah.
well. What was your trend? And I think as a result, you probably said, "Hey, I'm going to get in." Dylan got in. I know Dylan. What was your process like getting into real estate? Did I have anything to do with that at all? What
Oh
was your
yeah, yeah,
process?
yeah. Oh man, I didn't tell you this, but I was trying to beat you. I was gonna be like first class in your face. But so for me, it was I've always loved real estate. I've loved walking houses, open houses, used new, going to new cities and going to look at the nice neighborhoods. It's just something I've always been very, very passionate about. I'm a huge in-person sales guy. I do not like being over the phone, um, especially about stuff that's people generally don't care about. I really, really love in sales, which is why I did so great at T-Mobile and Verizon. So for me, it was long and hard because I work a an office job for 9 hours a day doing
Right.
staffing and recruiting, looking at resume after resume, interviews, calling, research, business development. I mean, just I'm just sitting there in an office, and then afterwards, you want me to go to real estate school and sit there and listen to these lessons
Oh
for
my
another 4 hours
gosh.
after. I mean, I'm pulling 15, 16-hour days of literally
Dude, it's
just sitting
brutal.
there. It was so hard for me, you know? I have ADHD. I'm an athletic guy. I want to do things. There was none of that. I mean, my weekends were just recovering, just straight
It was,
recovery.
dude,
Yeah, it was brutal
I
for
remember texting
me.
you and I was like, dude, I'm literally breaking. Like, I can't do these days. And I wasn't nearly, it wasn't nearly as rough as yours. You know what I mean? Mine were not nearly as rough.
Because you got it out of the way quickly. Smart.
I
Yeah.
did it full time. I mean, it was brutal. Uh, I will
I can
say that,
tell you, probably the last two classes that I did, I absolutely was daydreaming the entire time. I
yeah, I
don't think I
didn't pay
learned
a
very much
single
at
word of
all.
attention.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it was
I
too
want to
hard on
say,
me.
you passed every class the first time. You never had to retake anything,
Yes,
right?
correct,
There
correct.
was
Even the ones
one
I didn't
exam
pay
that you
attention to.
There was one exam that you passed by like the score, right? Like you got
One
the min.
question. Yeah, law of agency. Yeah, 1 point.
So, uh, I mean, to put this into perspective, folks, I don't know if Matt had a similar setup at his champion school, but at my champion school, they almost like gave you the answers, if you will, like they really teed it up
Before
for
the
you.
test. Yeah.
Yeah, and so Matt was like fully committed to daydreaming in that class. You have to try. I mean, I
Well,
if go ahead. If I was to do it over again, I mean, I would have maybe done a little bit differently, but I'm of course grateful. I think one of the things that I would have done is factored in the hour long commute there and then the hour and a half commute back that I was going to be
yeah.
doing, and was a lot. But those courses were phenomenal. Like the networking opportunity that I had at Champion School, phenomenal. I still connect with at least
I
one
was
of the
blown
guys.
away. I
Yeah,
was
it
blown
was.
away to see that. No, I'm blown away for the opposite reason that no, almost nobody would talk to each other, and especially the guys. I have a picture with this group that I went to go study with. I was the only guy there.
It's true.
It was like me and like 10, 15 other baddies, and just me because those were the only ones who were networking. And I'm like, what are y'all doing? The only like real estate sales, the only thing you're doing the entire time is building networks, building connections, talking to people, reaching out. Like if you're not a social person, like are you planning just to be on a computer and laptop all day doing, social media? Like even then you've got to sometimes record, content and stuff like that. So I was really blown away by how many people there were not social at all. It was crazy.
I mean, real estate is the answer, in my opinion, to a professional career that's in your own doing, of your own realm. Because you could have a job, it could be your identity, you could get let go of the job, you could be a doctor, surgeon, something could happen to you. I've known actually someone on another podcast that I did, dentist who got vaccine injured, could no longer practice as a surgical
Mm,
dentist, and how sad that is, right? But pivoted. And I think real estate, the barrier to entry right now is basically in-person class. That's going to be about a rack, $1,000. Licensing, testing, fingerprints, all this other. I don't know if they make you. Yeah, they make you do fingerprints. Another $1,500. If you need to get on the MLS, which you actually, uh, for now, if I can say this, you're not doing it right now to save, but will ultimately. But right now, because you're focusing on new builds and affordable homes, you're not worried
correct.
at the moment about listing. It's not an absolute necessity. And so you can go from being unlicensed to fully licensed, I would say pretty reliably within 6 months. If people are pacing it out, they're studying probably faster
Oh,
than
much
that,
quicker.
and
Much quicker than that.
you can do it for $2,500. And I would say all in, specifically in Texas, but probably a lot of other areas of the country as well. That's a pretty reliable estimate. Now, with that being said, if you want to get onto the MLS, which is what they're going to try to really push on you, it's going to be an additional like $1,000, maybe more. But that's
Yeah,
not
it's six.
necessary if you want
It's
to go
I
to the
think
new build.
the total for the year is like 1,500. You got to do setup fees in your first quarter if you don't want to if you want to break it up, which is about 600 something. But I'm still going to be working listings and things of that nature, but I'll be giving them off to my mentor here, Stephanie Sells Homes, on Instagram. But yeah, I'll still be working them. Eventually, when I'll get the MLS eventually. And but I really think my passion right now is the new builds
Yeah.
because of what they're offering, the incentives, the ability to get you an interest rate literally cut in half from 7% to like 3.5. 4 is really, really common right now. Um, and they're giving away washers and dryers, with the builds. They're paying all your closing costs for you up front. There's government programs that these lenders can even work with some of them to literally pay for your down payment. That 3.5% that you have to pay, as long as you live there 5 years, it's completely forgivable. There's all different kinds of things, but new builds to me is where people, because you're a big proponent of it's so hard to own a home in the United States of America today. And
Yeah.
I just see a way where, the average middle class person can own a home. And so that's why it's my passion right now to work those new builds because of everything that they're doing to try to get someone in a home. So
I want to get extremely granular here and walk us through this exactly how people can get down payment assistance and qualify for a home if they're making under 90 grand a year. Exactly how this goes from the cradle to the grave. Let's use San Antonio as an example because that's where you're becoming a subject matter expert in. How can they do this in San Antonio?
I actually have a PDF version that I've saved here, but essentially what it is a loan repayment. It's a loan that they give you that they completely nullify after you live there 5 years, up to $15,000. Now the city of San Antonio will go up to $30,000 to help pay for closing costs and down payment. Same thing with the 15K closing costs and down payment, but you have to live there 10 years. Now, as far as income is concerned, one in San Antonio, one person, uh, like you're not married, you have one income, is about 54,000. So if you make above that, there are other assistance programs that I could look at and try to get you to qualify for. But that's for the specific ones that the city of San Antonio is doing right now. For a two-person income, it's 61,850. I believe Austin for one person, it's 72 and some change. Um, but yeah, there's ways and a lot of different things that we can look at as realtors to try to get you to qualify. If your realtor is just kind of giving up and not looking at additional things, I probably would switch to somewhere else. And it's funny that I went over these grants or these loan forgiveness programs,
Yeah.
and there were some brokers that I talked to, and they had no idea what they were.
I want to
They learned
mention
this.
this because
It's crazy.
I actually don't. I gotta check with my broker, EXP. I don't know if realtors are able to guide as far as any of the lending things because we're not licensed lenders, but I want to go and I'm going to go out of my way, and I know you are as well, to help people through that process. Not necessarily say what they can and can't qualify for, but
Exactly.
make the connections with people and guide them based on a general understanding of what could typically happen. Because here's the experience that I have had personally, and time again have seen is you go to somebody, they say, oh, well, you don't make this much money. This is the average price of the home. This is what the lenders are typically going to ask for. You go to a lender, they say, oh, you're a 580 credit score. You need to be a 620, 640, wherever it is. Oh, you're a 640. Now you need, and then they just keep upping and upping. Oh, you're a 700, but you don't have established credit, and so what really frustrates me, and, one of the reasons why I kind of thought that the whole credit thing was ridiculous was because I've had 700 credit and, couldn't qualify for some large purchases. I never tried to qualify for a home, but it's frustrating. And when I also had good but not great credit, couldn't qualify for, and when I say that, I mean high 600s, couldn't qualify for a home. And what I think it comes down to now that I'm on the other side of it is there's really not a lot of people who cater to this audience, which is first time home buyers and affordable homes in general. And then the people that do, and I've seen this very broadly, the people that do cater to it tend to graduate out of it. They're like, I don't want to deal with, people who are first time home buyers any longer. But on the flip side, there's this massive pool of people. What is it? Like 15% of people in their 30s own homes or are married or some combination thereof. And so and married. And so my thing is, if there's all these people that are not yet homeowners, there's this huge, huge potential to rinse and repeat, to rinse and repeat, to rinse and repeat. So how do we do that? And I can speak, I think for you in saying this is that you will help someone. You'll get on a Zoom, you'll meet them in person, you'll introduce them to whoever you need to introduce them to help them through this process. If it doesn't work out with one thing, you're not just going to say, oh, that lender didn't qualify yet, we're done here, and then good luck.
Yeah. So essentially, these builders want to make money. So what they're doing is sacrificing massive profits to buy down interest rates to make it more affordable. Because the number one thing people are saying right now is, oh, I'm going to wait until the rates get lower. Well, the builders are already making it lower for you. And the reason why they're sacrificing those profits is because some money is better than no money at all. And so that's why they're willing to do that for anyone who's interested in a new build and new homes right now. And I always tell people you don't have to wait until it goes down by a quarter of a percent, because what happens when it goes down that people were waiting? Well, the demand shoots up, and when the demand shoots up, the price of the home gets higher. So now you have a quarter of a percent less interest rate, but now the home went up 10, 20, 30 grand. So
Yeah.
to me, it's better to do it right now when you can get a 3.5 when prices are low, because people are waiting, and honestly, there is high debt right now. But even these builders, some of the builders are willing to work with someone in the high 500s. Not all of them, and everyone's situation is different. And I can't say for sure whether you qualify or not. I'm not a lender, but I can get you in front of one, and I know which brand new builders will work more with certain situations than others, and that's where I come in to help.
I'm going to hold you to it too. If there's a person, if I hear someone and you say, man, Dylan, I couldn't get this person approved, I'm going to say, we got to get them approved. We're not just going to sit on what's their score. Is it 590? Let's get them above 600 and let's figure out a way to get them approved. I think between the two of us, I bring, having spoken with so many investors, having done 20 plus deals as a wholesaler, flipping contracts effectively from off-market deals, even a couple on market before I was licensed. I know that there's a way for us to help these people. And one of the things that I brought to you and that I keep mentioning is like, well, what about, buying a quadplex? Because I know that for a lot of people who can't get into single family homes, that I've heard from multiple lenders that if you can buy a quadplex, banks may be looking at that from a standpoint of it's cash flowing. Meaning the borrower, did the work to
Yes.
find the deal, so the bank doesn't have to do the really what's the harder work for them of finding the deal. They've got the deal. If the borrower defaults, they get them out of there and they get four doors. In many cases, for uh, potentially under a market value, comparatively speaking. So I think there's so many ways to go about it. I really do want to continue this conversation offline, but we are coming up on time here, though, Matt. I want to do kind of spitfire, rapid fire questions here,
Okay.
and get some of your feedback on this. Maybe provide some color where folks are unaware, but I actually got into dance because of you, and folks may not be aware of this, but I always tell people, and I'm pretty sure it's true, that you were basically like a professional bachata instructor at one point recently.
I wouldn't say recently. I haven't done it since I lived in Austin. But yes, I did teach beginner lessons. I taught for the studio, Austin Inspired Movement, which is world class. And I owe everything that I learned basically from Fabian Bustos and the people that teach over there. But yeah, man, it's done wonders for my life. It's made me more comfortable with um, I would say just touch in general, made me more comfortable. Um, leading's a huge thing. So if you can lead, the body movement and come up with moves and yet protect her safety and yet keep things creative and fun and yet make jokes while you're doing it and make sure the connection is strong. I mean, you're doing like 7 to 10 things all at once that people take for granted when they're just watching. That's happening all at the same time. If you can learn to lead in those different areas, it helps you to lead and when life is chaotic in other areas.
No
So
question.
it's been a
I remember
blessing though.
I remember you said we got to go, we got to go. I said, Matt, I can't dance. Matt, I
Yeah,
can't
anybody
dance.
can. Yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't know how you convinced me because I was like, I think I might have said something like, I'll go, but it's just for you. I can't dance. And you got me to go, and from there I got into country dancing. Really
Yes.
was going, and I was terrible at country, like bad. It was awful.
I was
I feel
terrible
like
at Latin dancing when I first started. I couldn't do 3 steps. I kept thinking, what was it again? Yeah.
I was apologizing to people. I felt
Yeah.
so badly that they had to dance. I was like, and then I got decent. I got decent. I was like, hey, I can
Yeah.
go anywhere right now, and I can two step. And it was really an amazing thing for you to do for me as a buddy to get me into dance.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
But you're also involved in mixed martial arts. You're heavily involved, I'd say, as a fan. You've been an athlete in that space as a someone who's gone to various different gyms and trained at. I know you're big into Muay Thai. I'm a jiu-jitsu guy. We've actually trained together. You definitely whipped my ass in Muay Thai. I remember you
Yeah.
kicking me through the bag, and I'm like, I need to stop, Matt.
I still think I had that triangle on you and I was doing everything correctly and I don't know why you couldn't tap.
In
I don't get
jiu-jitsu?
it.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, I
I'm
had you
I'm
in a
decent
great
in jiu-jitsu.
triangle. And yeah, and I felt it was tight. I don't know what I did wrong, if I did anything wrong, or you just, I don't know.
I'm decent at jiu-jitsu. I tell you, three stripe white belt, but I was really I feel like a blue belt, but it's the three stripes on the white. But
Yeah, I know how
no,
that
I,
feels. Yeah.
I trained jiu-jitsu for a solid 3 days a week for 9 months and loved it. And that's never since been lost on me. But man, I think there's so many different conversations that we've had that I'm grateful for about real estate, about staffing, about dance, about advice on how to navigate interpersonal situations, about moving to Dallas, about gosh, so many different things that I'm so grateful for, and I think our audience will be grateful to have you on the podcast and talk about some of the things that we talked about here today. Matt, it was great to have you
Thank you,
on,
brother.
man.
Awesome, man. It's been a pleasure to talk to you as well, man. Thank you for having me on.